everybody. Welcome to the very first episode of the Unity or Death podcast. I'm super excited. I got a dollar tablecloth behind me that's working as a green screen. I spent way too much time on that intro, so I'm kind of just cheesed about life right now. And for my very first guest, a good friend of mine, somebody running around putting in a lot of work that you might not even realize, and just a warrior for liberty, the devil in black lipstick, Miss Naomi Mathew. Hello, how you doing?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Ooh, hang on, I got an echo. There we go. Fix the echo. Yeah. So how you been? What you been up to? I've heard you guys have been quite busy over in the YAL front.
Definitely. It's been a busy day today alone. Constitutional carry passed the Texas House, which we weren't even sure that was going to happen. But besides that, we've been working on a lot of projects in Alabama, Louisiana, Kentucky, and a bunch of different states to get some legislation passed.
Heck yeah. And I guess for people who don't know, because I'm awful at intros, who exactly you work for and what exactly do you do?
Yeah, so I work for Young Americans for Liberty. We are a nonprofit student group / election / lobbying group now. Essentially, we find college students on campuses. That's how I got involved. I found the chapter on my local college campus. We train them in the ideas of liberty and how to be effective activists and able to actually get out there and make liberty win. And then we mobilize college students to go out there and knock doors for liberty candidates and in favor of liberty legislation, so we can get some legislative victories and actually change laws and make liberty win.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy about Texas, because the last thing I heard about it is there was a bunch of sheriffs and like police union members that were trying to lobby against constitutional carry. Like, how about that?
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize it, but when you're actually at the state level trying to get pro-gun legislation passed, you normally, when you think of opponents to gun bills, you think of groups like Moms Demand Action, Everytown, Democrats. But a lot of times, law enforcement, sheriff's associations, these are the biggest obstacles to getting pro-gun legislation passed.
Yeah, I mean, like any time like an open carry or a constitutional carry bill pass, like the very first article that comes out is some police chief or police union like crying to the media about like, this will make our jobs harder and like it's going to cause violence in the streets and everything. And
we'll become the Wild West.
Right. Like they're like, it's going to make the officers' jobs so much harder. And it's like, okay, like just don't worry about it then. And particularly with like what just happened up in Minneapolis, which is like all based around like gun control. It's like you have these people that are simultaneously advocating for gun control, thinking that the cops are like for it, well, I guess against it, not realizing that they're lobbying right alongside. And it's kind of like one of those unholy unions that nobody talks about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so you said there's stuff going on. I know there's a lot going on in New Hampshire. I just learned about that, and that was kind of crazy. I guess it got shot down, but they did almost repeal qualified immunity or something like that up there.
Okay, I'm not too familiar with that. New Hampshire is really a unique situation because not only is it a very small state, so there aren't a ton of people there, but there was I guess there still is, the Free State Project, which is a goal to get a bunch of libertarians and liberty-loving people moving there. And then another thing that libertarians have going for them up in New Hampshire is that the state house is insanely big. There are 400 state representative seats in New Hampshire, and the districts there are insane. Some of them, there are literally 11 candidates running in one district. So you can have 11, because there are 11 seats per district, right? So it's very small, it's very localized, and that really helps pro-liberty candidates win. And so right now we have over 60, I believe, YAL representatives elected in New Hampshire alone, and they're able to control the leadership there. So the majority leader is one of our guys that's really helping us get a lot of legislation passed, or at least in progress to pass there, like right to work, for example.
I guess somebody said in the comments that the state reps make a salary of 1 day a year or something like that. in New
Yeah,
Hampshire?
I think they make $200 their entire term.
That's
Something like that.
that's fucking spectacular. See, that's the thing is like the small states, you just, I mean, we only heard about Vermont because of Bernie Sanders. Otherwise, everyone kind of forgot that existed. But I genuinely haven't thought of like the words New Hampshire have not crossed my brain in like years until somebody, I forget who it was. I think it was like the crypto group got like arrested or something there. And then I was like digging through it and I was like, oh God, they're just like dominating over there. They're doing kind of like everything at once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny too because I used to work for Yale, so you're actually you're one of the very few people that knew me before all this shenanigans happened.
Okay.
Because I had you on Facebook.
Okay. See, I have so many Facebook friends.
Yep.
And I just get so many Facebook requests. I just ignore it all now.
Yeah, it was you, Diego, and Helena. That was like the people that like threw me into it. And Diego's still like lurking around. Diego's how I found out about the Boogaloo, ironically enough, because he was around making like those patches and those flyers and stuff. But yeah, so what's the near future kind of like agenda for you guys? What's like the pressure points you're kind of going after right now?
So right now, this wasn't necessarily on the agenda because we didn't think constitutional carry was going to pass the Texas House. But I think we're definitely going to do everything we can to make sure that it gets to the Senate, passes there, and hopefully Greg Abbott, the Republican governor, will sign it. We are also working on getting constitutional carry passed in South Carolina. We are working on getting right to work passed in New Hampshire. We have some other bills in different states. And then besides that, we have our Operation Win at the Door program, which is where we find pro-liberty candidates. We vet them, interview them, and if we decide to endorse them, we'll send teams of student door knockers to their districts, knock on doors, talk to voters, and help them win their elections. So we have 2 election days coming up pretty soon for 2 special elections. One is actually in New Hampshire. That's on 4/20, ironically.
Yay.
So hopefully we can get our first election win of the year on 4/20.
Is it decriminalized? Is pot decriminalized there? I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure medical is. I don't know that it is completely decriminalized.
Oh, let's see that's what the candidate has to announce on like 4/19. Be like, I'll decriminalize marijuana and I'll get elected on 4/20.
That would be fun. Yeah. And then a few days after that, we have the primaries in Virginia. We have 2 candidates out in Virginia that we've endorsed and are out knocking doors for. And so a total of 3 candidates that we found in this off-year election cycle that we can hopefully get elected.
Yeah, you'll definitely have to send me some names so I can maybe promote that a little bit. I did the whole win at the door thing for like a brief period of time. I quit for a variety of reasons, but I'm still somehow managed to stay friends with everybody in Yale. But yeah, it was actually that we have like a really big, it's probably like the largest in the Midwest, like a marijuana festival the first Saturday of April every year, and it turned into an anti-lockdown protest this year. Nice. So there was just a bunch of people in Ann Arbor like smoking weeds, like protesting the lockdown. I was like, fuck yeah. It's been a weird year.
Yeah, now that I think about it, it's almost exactly a year ago was when I started going to anti-lockdown protests and started realizing just how insane all of the COVID restrictions were. And it still shocks me sometimes that it's been a year and there are still places that are locked down. There are still places. I'm actually in one of those places, Austin, Texas, where masks are still required. And there's still all this nonsense going down. Yeah, the statewide mask mandate was lifted by Governor Abbott about a month ago, but in Austin, the local tyrant Steve Adler decided to make
California transplant.
So, yeah.
Yeah, Austin is like simultaneously probably like it's weird because it's like half my favorite place in Texas and half my least favorite place in Texas. Because I like the weird, I just don't like the politics that come with the weird too often or not. Because I'm like the big hippie anarchist that will like look like the Austinites, you know, the keep Austin weirds people. I'll dress just like them and look like them, but then I'll be like, you know, legalize fully automatic machine guns, and they start looking at you weird. I'm like, I thought this was Texas.
Right. I really like the more like hipster aspects of Austin. I like the cultural aspects that come with all the liberals. Like I'm obsessed with all the vegan restaurants and all that kind of stuff. But the politics that come with it, that's the downside.
Yeah, that's why I was getting really excited about New Hampshire, because I'm like, can there be a libertarian part of the country? Because it's like I lived in Nashville and I was too weird and hippie for them. I infamously got kicked out of a gun range for saying that a gun was jammed like a motherfucker. And the guy was like, we don't talk like that here. And I was like, what? Like, and then, but then I lived in Chicago and like, I was like treated like I was a fucking Nazi or something. It's like, can we get a libertarian state, you know, just like a nice, you know, where I can be weird and like own guns and not like be taxed to death. Can we just make that happen?
Yeah, from what I've heard of New Hampshire, I've only actually been there once, but it seems like that is the weird yet also super libertarian place. And I guess those things go hand in hand.
Yeah, because it's got Vermont next door, which like despite being like super uber progressive and liberal, they have like really good gun rights and stuff like that. So I guess just like the you know, the Atlantic Northwest, I guess, for lack of a better term, Northeast is just the place.
Right. I think a lot of it has to do with the culture there because, you know, New Hampshire, you don't really think of it as an uber conservative-y place, but it has tons of gun rights. Vermont, super liberal place, but gun rights. Maine, controlled by Democrats, has constitutional carry. So I think it's just that Northeast rural culture where everyone, even if you are a Democrat, pretty much supports gun rights.
It's kind of like the birthplace of the country, you know, like the original states up there kind of got left behind and everyone else moved onwards, and you still got that culture up there, I guess. Maybe I have to visit now. I'm super interested. You might have to put me in contact with some people up there, because that's actually the only place in the country I haven't gone is like up by Maine. I've gone everywhere else and just never had any reason to go up there. We'll see. But yeah, I know YalCon got shut down last year. Are they doing it again this year? Are they going to try to do it?
Yes. Last year was really disappointing. It was supposed to be in Austin, then it was supposed to be in Dallas, and then 2 days before the event was supposed to happen, the city shut it down without literally no warning. But this year we are doing it again. We are not making the mistake of risking doing it anywhere in Texas. We are doing it in Florida. It's called the Revolution, and it's August 6th through 8th, I believe.
Yeah, I keep getting pestered because somebody wants me to. I guess there's like a travel scholarship form or something like that, and they want me to fill that out because they want me to go, and I keep forgetting to do it. But I want to go because just like it'd be nice to see everybody and everything like that. The only other plans I have is doing the Michigan Libertarian Convention. And otherwise, like nothing's really going on. So just like give me a big event. It's been a whole year. I just want to be in a room full of people.
Yeah, I'm not too looped in on a lot of the logistics for the event because that's not what I do for my job. But I do know that there's like 1,000 something spots, and there's already been like 1,600 applicants within the first week or something. And a lot of that is because there just aren't a ton of in-person events happening, right? It's been so long since we've been able to gather in large, you know, super spreader groups. So I think everyone's really excited to finally meet in person in Florida where it's actually open.
That's why I always you know make fun of the more conservative types. Sometimes I'm like, you've been missing out not going to these protests and stuff, all the BLM protests, because it's like it's your excuse to get outside in a big crowd. Just like, you know, just shut up and show up. It'll be hilarious. There's music. A lot of times there's food. Like there you go. You know, skirt the law, make it fun. But I don't know, what was Yal involved with like any like anti-lockdown stuff, or did it just kind of focus outside of that?
I don't think there was anything official happening. Like we had activists and staff at a ton of different protests. So the reason I actually started getting involved in multiple anti-lockdown protests in Wisconsin a year ago was because the deputy regional director for the area contacted me and said, "Hey, there's these protests coming. Bring some YAL gear. Bring some YAL, t-shirts. Let's go. Let's get petition signatures to build lists of people that we can then get involved, and let's just go out there and protest against these lockdowns." And so there were definitely YAL staff and activists doing a lot of things at the protests. I don't know that it was like an official YAL event though.
Right. But still, that I think that's like really important, because I tell this story all the time, but it's super important. Of way back in the day when I was a like cringy Marxist Leninist and everything in my younger years. I started in like maybe 2010. Every single protest I went to, whether it was like an environmental protest or like a police brutality protest, like anything you could think of, the Democratic Socialists of America had a booth there. And this is back in like 2010, when like socialism was a dirty word. You could never even get away with saying it. And they would show up to every single protest, no matter what it was about, and they would pass out flyers and they would talk to people. And I saw them get like their table flipped over. I've seen them get run out and everything like that, but they'd show up to every single event. 10 years later, Bernie Sanders almost wins, the Democratic nomination. So that's why I go to like libertarians and stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, like, I know it's fun to sit online and like, fucking copy and paste taxation is theft over and over again. But like, that strategy worked for them. So like, we should steal that strategy. Like, so I was like happy that I heard hearing you guys were going to those protests, because it's like in person, which is the same thing with the win at the door stuff. In person's what works. So like, so much of our shit for the last couple of years has been online, and we need to like get out and interact with real human beings to kind of push these ideas and these messages more.
Exactly, because online we have our own little space, right? We probably only follow people who agree with us, or the few people that we actually know in real life. So it's easy to get caught up in that echo chamber and only be talking to people who agree with us and just parroting the same points over and over again. But by actually showing up in real life, which I know a lot of libertarians don't like to do because we are socially awkward and maybe not the best at talking to people, but by actually going out there, whether it's on campus recruiting for your group there, being at these protests, talking to normal voters at the door, you're able to communicate your ideas to people who aren't following you on Twitter, who aren't friends with you on Facebook, and spreading the message to actual real life people, not just the weird nerds who are obsessed with politics.
Yeah, was it you or someone else from YAL that was running like a raffle to win like a free machine gun or like something like that? Somebody was doing that. They were on something.
YAL, yeah, I think about a year ago, YAL officially had a AR-15 giveaway, and
based as hell.
So what I did at my school was I took a giant sign that said AR-15 giveaway, a come and take it flag, a bunch of other fun gun signs and stuff, set up a table in one of the student buildings, and then had students fill out the form to try to win the AR-15. Like we obviously couldn't bring it on campus, and it was a nationwide contest that YAL was doing. But a lot of people who we wouldn't have found otherwise were really intrigued by just this giant sign that said AR-15 giveaway.
I would have walked right up to you. Even if I didn't give a shit about politics, just me being me, I'd be like, what?
Yeah, obviously there were people that were really mad about it. Apparently the school had like adults who didn't even go there calling to yell at them, like, why are their kids giving away AR-15s? Like the news reported on it, but we were really successful in it, and we were able to find lots of new members who weren't just, us weird political nerds sitting around discussing theory. These are people who cared about liberty, but maybe they didn't really know it yet. They just liked guns. And by, going to them where they were at, we were able to get them involved and get them involved in the fight for liberty.
Yeah, I think it was like the University of Salt Lake or something. One of the like the northern flyover states. They held a class on how to 3D print your own gun, and they got just destroyed on like Twitter and everything about it, of all these Karens being like, you're teaching people how to become school shooters and everything. And then our little bubble of the world got a hold of it and we're like, best college ever. And they finally put out a statement of like, well, by the way, this was announced like 2 days after the Colorado shooting. So it was like, yeah. So people are like, this is the worst time for you to ever announce this. And we're like, no, this is the best time ever for you to announce this.
See, I didn't even hear about that.
Yeah, it was a huge shitstorm on Twitter. It trended for like a minute, but like, it was like, all right, sweet. And I definitely think, not to backseat strategist at all, but that'd probably be something good for Yal to get on, is like running around, try to get people to do 3D, building classes for firearms.
Yeah, I mean,
just the fact, even if nobody shows up, the shitstorm alone is great publicity.
Yeah, I mean, we already have like the hoodies that say print guns, so that's a really good idea.
Hire me, Yal, except for not doing door knocking, because I don't want to do that again. I was in the Michigan campaign. Yeah, with David, ironically enough.
Okay, yeah, I was just about to ask.
Yep. That's why it was so funny, because like I had all you guys on Facebook beforehand, and then I joined Yal, and then like I met like half of y'all, and then I quit Yal and disappeared for like 6 months, and then I reappear on Jimmy Dore. Like, meet all you guys again. David didn't even know it was me. That was the best part. It was like, you seem familiar. I'm like, yes, you were in my fucking car. Like, what the? Now we all run podcasts. So, hey, yeah, Yal creates families. That was the first night when we were all in the same place before we broke off into different states. Was probably like the most degenerate libertarian party I've ever like we were sitting outside of a hotel room, like drinking and shooting fireworks off, and like I was like, am I in the right place? And like people are like talking about like privately owned nuclear warheads and stuff while shooting fireworks into a field. And I'm like, yeah, I think I am. It's like, welcome to Yal. Yeah. So join up. It's legitimately fun. As much as hard work as it is, it's legitimately fun. I always advocate for more of my end of the spectrum people to know what candidate you're advocating for before you join, because I'm more of an anarchist, annoying scumbag. So that's kind of a thing. But I think in general, a lot of people, it's worth joining into Yal. You can also kind of see the inner workings of how much of a clusterfuck politics are, just in terms of organizing and all these campaigns and candidates being weird.
Yeah, people think that politics is all, TV ads. It's all, wheeling and dealing, like behind closed doors. Really, it's just numbers, spreadsheets, data, and hard work. Like, it's for nerds.
Millions of phone calls. Like,
and these politics aren't, crazy heroes. They're not, they're not that special. They're just normal, weird people, just like us, right?
Yeah. And so I know, like, at least when I was in, things were really focused around, like, because the election was coming up, the bigger stuff. Does Yal do anything on like local level in terms of like maybe even down to the level of like mayors and stuff like that, and like treasury and stuff like that? Or is that kind of something maybe in the future?
So with the Operation Win at the Door program, we are only focused on electing state representatives and occasionally state senators. The goal is to get 250 of them by 2022. We are on track to hit that. And the reason we do this level only is because we've found that this is the level where our resources make the most impact, right? It's really hard for us to make the difference in a congressional race or a governor's race, but the size of the state representative districts are just small enough, yet the power that a state representative holds is big enough for our resources to make the most impact. For lower level candidates like mayor, like school board, we don't do anything officially like endorsing them, But we do have a lot of local candidates come to our candidate trainings that we put on. So we have a training called Liberty Candidate Academy that we'll take to different places across the country.
Weren't you
And
running that?
yeah,
I
I
was
teach
like,
those. And we have 18 steps. It happens in one day, so it's a ton of information, but everything from filing to run, fundraising, messaging, getting out the vote. We'll teach candidates how to run a successful campaign in one day. And though it's focused on state representatives, the principles also apply to local elections as well. So I believe there are some local candidates that have taken those trainings and have won. The next training actually is going to be May 1st in Manchester, New Hampshire. So if anybody in New Hampshire wants to go to Liberty Candidate Academy, definitely let me know.
okay. So don't spoil your whole presentation, but like give me like a rapid fire, like 3 things. If I came to you and I'm like, I want to run as like as a libertarian for my population, 10,000 home bump town, whatever, like give me your top 3 tips.
Okay, so the first thing is you have to know your audience and know your district, right? So you have to know, well, you said you knew how many people were in the district, but you need to know, does the district vote Republican, Democrat? So you have to know whether your district is winnable at all, or whether or not you should, just move to a district, and also factors like, is this the right time in your life? So you have to analyze your district, really understand what issues people care about in that district, even before you decide to run. Second, you absolutely have to be fundraising. This is probably the number one mistake that liberty-minded candidates make, is we are nervous to not just talk to people a lot of times, but we don't ask for enough money and don't fundraise as hard as we can, because elections do take money and resources to win. And so probably the most important lesson that we teach at these Liberty Candidate Academies is how to successfully raise money as a Liberty candidate to fund your campaign, so you can compete with all the establishment hacks, with all the statists and big government types, and actually be competitive and win. And then third and finally, the other biggest tip I would have is be prepared to put in work. Because the big misconception, like I said, is that politics is just standing up, giving speeches, shaking hands, and kissing babies. That's not actually how you win, especially at a local level where you don't have a lot of name recognition. The best way to win your elections is to go directly to voters, to knock on doors, to make phone calls, and occasionally send mailers, right? To establish your name ID and get people out to vote. So be prepared to do the hard work in order to win.
Yeah, and so I guess this would be the fun thing, seeming you guys are about to run, in probably running a campaign now in a lot of these places. How has COVID kind of made things fucky? Because I remember in the Michigan campaign alone, like there was a lot of people that were very not okay with you knocking on their door because they thought the fucking world was coming to an end or something, because media fear mongering. So how's that kind of like affected y'all and like your guys' like strategy and stuff like that?
That's a really good point. I was actually, right when COVID hit and I was sent home from school, I was planning to actually go on a campaign. And then COVID happened, and we actually ended all of the door knocking efforts for a few months, switched to phone banking only, which wasn't as effective, but we still saw pretty good results in helping our candidates win with that. In terms of whether or not COVID hurt or helped, obviously it's going to depend on the place, right? Michigan was super locked down. Southern states like Georgia or Texas, people did not care at all. We really wanted to actually look at this data and kind of find and look at it objectively to see how COVID impacted our operations last year. So we did a survey. Every time people were at the doors, we had our door knockers rank whether or not people were scared of COVID. And what we found was that first, the rates at which people answered the door actually went up. I think it was about 20% of people before COVID were answering the door when one of us
People were
showed up.
lonely and bored.
And now because of COVID, people were more likely to be home and answer the door. So I think the answer rate went up to 28%, if I'm not mistaken. So people were answering the door. And then only about 1% of people were really angry that we were, door knocking. I think maybe like 2% were slightly angry.
Those are the mega Karens.
Yeah, the vast majority of people acted normal, right? Which might be a surprise to some people, but the majority of people that we targeted were just acting normal. A few people were positive, and then a good amount of people actually thanked us. And those would be people like, oh, thank you so much for coming out here despite all this COVID nonsense. I had people when I was out knocking doors, even with COVID, like try to hug me, like shake my hand, which is kind of weird. And I don't have the exact percentages off the top of my head, but for at least the voters we were targeting, we either target only people who vote in Republican primaries or only Republicans and independents typically. For those types of people, we were still able to be really effective despite COVID.
Yeah, that's the secret strategy for the next thing is just be like, we'll give physical interaction and or hugs for vote. It's like, I know you haven't seen grandma in like a year, but we'll give you the hug you've been missing. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. So I guess then like what's kind of been like the whole, I'm trying to figure out a way to word this, kind of the post-Trump political atmosphere, because I know like everybody was like Trump candidates when he was around, like we're running on the Trump platform or everything, to where, and then like there was like a really brief period we have very liberty-minded kind of people popping up that were neither real Trump people or obviously not Democrats because they weren't running as Democrats. Have you seen kind of that going on, or like what's kind of like the climate of politics right now that everything's burning and on fire and the economy is going to hell? And
I think Republicans right now are in a unique position where they're simultaneously really united and then also fighting for the direction of the party. And we're really united because Biden is in office. He's proposing new gun laws, new regulations, taxes. Democrats are proposing all these insane bills. And so on one hand, Republicans, conservatives, libertarians, we all have this opportunity to unite against these bad bills, these anti-liberty things that Democrats and progressives are pushing. So in that sense, I think it is easy for Republicans and libertarians and just small government people in general to be united. But yeah, on the other hand, the future of the Republican Party is kind of up for grabs and in the air. There's still those people who think Trump won the election, stolen election, fake news, all that. You're going to have
still
those
hung up on that.
Yeah, and then there's also those people who were never Trump to begin with and are still in the party, still being involved. And then there's the super liberty people, and then you have, the Liz Cheney types. So I think right now what's happening is Republicans are fighting for the future of the party. And we actually get to see this play out a lot in these state legislative fights that Young Americans for Liberty engages with. So I'm not 100% certain where the future of the party is going to be. What I hope happens is all of the liberty people get involved and make sure that the Republican Party sticks to being more in favor of less government intervention overseas, keeping up doing criminal justice reform, and hopefully take the party in a more pro-liberty direction.
So yeah, definitely like I'm hoping for kind of like a big anti-war movement. That's the whole thing, that like this whole unity idea that I'm doing where I'm running around with all these like BLM and like anti-fascists and stuff like that is like hoping for like a big new anti-war movement. And I know we have like Massey and maybe a handful of other people, but that seems to be kind of dead right now. Like nobody's really like banging like the anti-war drum.
Yeah, I know Matt Gaetz was the big anti-war person, and I haven't been following that situation, so I just haven't been paying attention, so I'm not going to comment on that. But yeah, but I know Massey and Gaetz were really the two main anti-war people. What really surprised me actually was Biden saying he was going to pull the troops out of Afghanistan. Now, I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but I was pleasantly surprised that he said he was actually going to do it.
I shared 3 different tweets over the course of the last 14 years of Joe Biden tweeting that exact same thing. So I'm a little doubtful. Plus, we were supposed to pull out this month. That's the big thing. And we had a deadline with the Taliban. And then we just went to the Taliban and was like, oh, by the way, we're not pulling out this month. We're going to pull out 3 months or whatever from now. And there's like, they're totally not going to just like bomb you now. And then it's, the cycle begins anew.
Yeah. How much do you want to bet that like a week from the day we're supposed to pull out of Afghanistan, a surprising terror attack happens, or some, surprising event happens that forces us to stay?
So some new spooky, acronym terror organization appears out of nowhere with a bunch of U.S. military weapons and everything, and attacks all of the Middle East again. It's not like we hadn't done this before. And I know they're real riled up about Ukraine right now, which is great because actually, like, I follow that pretty closely because I have family and friends in Ukraine. And yay, that war has been going on for like 6 years now, and we're looking to get involved in that. So I really hope that like that would kind of be my bare minimum of if somebody calls them like a liberty anything, liberty Democrat, liberty Republican, liberty libertarian, of like explicitly anti-war, super in your face anti-war, like Tulsi Gabbard level, for me to be like, okay, like
Definitely.
We'll see what happens, hopefully. Yeah. I guess then. So, okay. Are you guys doing any kind of like, because a lot of college campuses are closed, so kind of how are you guys doing that end of stuff? Is it all just like through like digital and mailing letters and stuff like that, or?
No, a lot of campuses are. See, I'm doing my college online now, but the college I go to is open in person. So I think that's the case for a lot of colleges, at least in states that aren't completely locked down. So, I know that there are still activists out there on college campuses passing out sign-up sheets. I think something that we switched to that probably has helped a lot during COVID is giving out QR codes so people can just fill out their information from their phone, and still join YAL, but socially distance, I guess, if that's what they feel more comfortable doing. But again, I'm not on the campus side, so I'm not too connected with exactly how everybody is getting signups and still growing. But I do know that we are still growing on the campus side. I think so far this year we've gotten 20,000 signups. That's the last number I heard. So even despite all of the COVID regulations, despite all of the university shutdowns and social distancing, the Liberty Movement is still growing on college campuses.
Y'all are going to take over Turning Point if you keep this up, which would be really entertaining if that happened.
That would be entertaining.
Like the actual Liberty people have arrived.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what. When I think of Turning Point, I think of Charlie Kirk and Trump, right? There aren't many like ideas that Turning Point is associated with.
Yeah. It's the same thing with Proud Boys. Like, it's just Trump. Like, you might catch a few people that have deeper ideas than that, but like, it was barely even like Republican Party. It was just like the fucking Trump cheerleading team.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, now that Trump is gone, what makes them different from college Republicans? What makes them different from YAF and groups like that? So it'll be interesting to see where they go in the next year or so.
No, because I'm curious, because definitely like I see most of the street activist Republicans that were like super Trump people. They're either disappearing, going like psycho nationalist, like scary nationalist, or they're like joining us. So kind of seeing like the hungry hippos for the Trump movement right now, pretty much. Yeah.
I think.
No, what were you gonna say?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the reasons that people liked Trump is that they just did not like politics at all, right? Even if they weren't Republicans before Trump, they liked that he called out the media. They liked that he wasn't afraid to say things like they are. And that attitude of just not liking politicians is something that libertarians and people in the liberty movement should definitely capitalize on with all these Trump people out there looking for a new movement to join.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like if you look at, I guess like even from content creation, if you look at the three like biggest political YouTubers from every like aisle, they're all people that just call the establishment a bunch of cucks all the time. Like you have Jimmy Dore like just screaming about AOC all the time. You have like Tim Pool, the moderate, that's just saying everyone sucks. And then you have, still the Ron Paul Liberty Report and stuff like that, just sitting there saying the world's coming to an end. the I warned you Ron Paul memes are the best.
Yeah. Didn't have to be like this.
Didn't have to be. It's happening. That's in the Facebook GIF keyboard. You can pull that up. That's great. I'm like, good job, Ron. He had that viral like it was like a tweet or a Facebook or something like that where he was wearing Daisy Dukes when he was doing his podcast. I was like, he's like 80 something now. He's sitting at his computer in Daisy Dukes. What a man. What a fucking man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess has there been like any like, how would I word this? Kind of like people like Ron, people like Thomas Massey and stuff like that having any interest in getting involved or like shouting you guys out or anything like that? Or
like politicians or
yeah, like just bigger names in like the movement, whether it be a politician like Massey or like people like Ron Paul or stuff like that.
Well, I know Gina. I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
Carano.
Yeah, I've never seen her name out loud before, but she retweets Yal stuff sometimes.
Interesting.
And I'm not super connected on the communications and like.
Right, I'm asking you like you're the president of Yal, but you're the highest person in the organization I know, so that's why I have to pick your brain.
But I don't know if I should like share this. They said we could share this. This hasn't been like officially announced yet. Like there's no graphic put out, but at the Revolution, our event in Florida this August, Edward Snowden will be speaking there digitally. So
I need to go. God damn it. Why is that not everywhere? Come on, that's hype as fuck. You guys need
I don't know when. It was literally just confirmed either yesterday or today.
Ooh,
so
did I get an exclusive here?
I don't know when they said they were going to like officially announce it with a graphic, but today they said we could tell people if it would help recruit more people to go. So yeah, I definitely want to go.
I definitely want to go because the only thing I can't really afford about it is getting there. So I hope that scholarship, I need to fill it out. God damn it. But yeah, I do really want to go, especially because I literally had the tickets to go to YalCon. It was going to be the first time I ever got on a plane. It was like I was to go there, and then it all fell through like last moment.
Yeah, it was crazy because the staff had also booked tons of tickets for the activists last time. I was still an intern around that time last year, so my job was to book all the plane tickets for our legislators that we've helped elect. And then they canceled it the day before, so I had to spend hours canceling all the flights, the 100-something of flights I had booked.
Yay. Somebody's horny posting about Gina Carano in the chat. I had to deal with that. Yes, she is a beautiful woman, but Keep it clean. Oh my God. Whoop, I almost broke my computer there for a second. Yeah, definitely. I know some people at FPC too, Firearms Policy Coalition. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them or work with them a lot, but that's somebody I might want to get you guys in touch with.
All I know is that they have a Twitter account and like we reply to each other's tweets sometimes. I don't know what they actually do like as a group.
They sue the living shit out of everybody for gun rights. Like they are just a lawsuit factory, and they had direct like involvement with getting the bump stock ban reversed. So like they're like everything the NRA pretends to be. So, and also I just love them because they sell Hawaiian shirt like gear and like openly tell people on Twitter that they're a bunch of anarchists that don't believe in government. So I'm like, that's the gun people we need right there. Even if you're like a Republican, you want the crazy anarchists running around and like suing every fucking state and local government in the country about gun rights.
Yeah, that's a really good strategy to getting what you want. Just suing because people don't like to deal with lawsuits, and so they'll hopefully stop enforcing their bad gun laws.
Yeah, because they like pre-announced a lawsuit in Maryland, I think it was, because they're trying to do a magazine ban, and they were like in like the Twitter responses be like, here's our already written up like lawsuit if you vote on this. Super excited. But yeah, I definitely should like try to put a bug in one of their ears and be like, talk to the Yal people, see if you can get like some guerrilla legislative kind of thing going with you guys, because they're great people. They're definitely like just like Yal, like total boots on the ground, get involved, no talk type people.
Yeah, show no mercy, just go out there, sue. That's the type of politics that I enjoy. We practice confrontational style politics, and I really enjoy that. Personally, I think it's what's most effective at getting legislation passed. If you're just a normal grassroots person without millions and billions of dollars to bribe and essentially buy off votes. So that definitely sounds like a group that I should learn more about.
Yeah, and it's something I just say all the time of like libertarians need to do liberty shit. Like if you need to live these principles, you need to go out. Like we've passed, just like you said, we've passed our ability to be awkward like dorks and everything, like hiding in our room, shit posting about freedom and Ron Paul quotes and stuff like that. Like we have to like interact with the world and go out and kind of do this stuff, because I obviously wasn't working for Yale or anything like that. But when I was running around all the BLM protests all the time, people would ask like, you know, what are you? And I'd be like, I'm either a libertarian or an anarchist. And they're like, what is a libertarian? And like that goes to show like how liberty ideas like that, like people know Republican and Democrat. They do not know that third word or what that means or how that applies to stuff. It's like, get out and do it, people. Like,
exactly. And I used to be that type of person who would just hide in my bedroom. I mean, I've always been kind of just a socially awkward person. And in college, even when I was, still really new to Yale, I had just taken over as president. There would still like be days I would like lock myself in my dorm room for the entire weekend. And I was still, terrified to talk to people. I'd avoid the cafeteria and the gym because I was too scared to talk to people. But it was joining YAL. It was my regional director calling me and saying, hey, you need to get out, get at least 20 signups today, build your chapter. And I eventually realized that this fight for liberty was so much more important than my social anxiety and social awkwardness. I forced myself to get out there. I ended up having to confront bureaucrats, to confront some unhappy people who didn't like the ideas that I was, trying to push. But it was fighting for liberty that helped me become a less socially anxious, socially awkward person.
What's your tally board on being called a Nazi or a fascist or just any of the words, the Twitter words, as I'll call them?
I don't know. I don't really remember in real life because it's all kind of.
You block them out for your sanity.
Yeah, I just try to ignore. Honestly, the best strategy I've had is just to ignore the people who don't like what you're doing. Because the reason that my YAL chapter at my school was so successful is because we would do a lot of controversial events. We did the Ar15 giveaway. We did an event that was pro Hong Kong freedom, and every Chinese international student came and protested and screamed at us, and the police were called because it got very heated.
Wow. Sounds like you needed some boogs there.
Yeah, and what else? We did a bunch of controversial events, and that got a lot of people mad at us. A lot of people said, you guys are just doing this for attention and controversy.
Yes.
What all these yeah, we did it for attention, but what we did is through these controversial events, we were able to find the people who agreed with us, right? Of course, we're going to find people who don't agree with us, but these events let us find the people who were our people and get them involved. And if I can find one other solid liberty activist, even if I have to interact with 5 people who don't like liberty and are calling me a Nazi or calling me a racist for saying that Hong Kong, should be free, it's worth it in order to get one other person involved, one other person phone banking, knocking doors to actually make liberty win and have tangible impacts to help people in real life.
Yeah, people underestimate the power of absurdity and shock value in a lot of things. I mean, I don't think anybody would have talked about my movement if we weren't walking around in Hawaiian shirts looking stupid.
Yeah.
Nobody would know who Vermin Supreme was if he wasn't walking around with a boot on his head talking about, giving people free ponies. The absurd, embrace the absurdity, embrace the shock, win a free AR-15. That's absurd. Nobody does that. Gun manufacturers don't do that. So that'll catch your attention. Just doing little things like that. And that's stuff you can do even if you're not with YAL or an organization or anything. If you're just a semi-persuasive speaker or whatever, just go set up a lemonade stand with get a sign that says give everybody, do the Steven Crowder thing of just change my mind or whatever. Get in the real world and interact with people.
Yeah, and what's most important with all of this, though, is when you're doing that, when you're doing these events, is to find those people that agree with you and get their contact information, like their phone number, their emails, build relationships and connect with them so you can keep growing the movement, right? So even after that event is done, you still have the tangible products of, okay, I identified this many new people and this many new supporters. Because, at any times, our Twitter accounts could get shut down, Facebook could get shut down.
Probably will get shut down.
Anything that we have online or on social media sites could eventually get shut down, and you don't want your entire network to disappear when that happens. So when you're out there doing events, it's really important to be getting people's contact information and to be maintaining your own lists so that you're not just dependent on sites that can kick you off immediately. So even if you're gone one day from Twitter, you still have your lists of libertarians that you can connect with in order to keep fighting for liberty.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you guys still text me to this day all the time. I still get the hi, hi Magnus, are you interested in working on this campaign? Hi. even when I was working for YAL, they'd be like, are you interested in working for Win at the Door? And I'm like, I already am. And then the next day I'd get another text message and it'd be like, guys, put me on a list already on the team.
Yeah, I'm still on lists. I get every email that YAL sends out, I get at least 3 times because I think at least 3 of my different emails are on their lists. So
yay.
But that's kind of how politics works, right? Build lists, hit lists to connect people and hopefully mobilize them to actually take action and do things for liberty.
Yeah, especially the best example ever of guerrilla politics is that woman that ran in, I think it might have been New Hampshire even, there was the trans woman who ran on defund the police and stuff like that as a Republican and
right,
won.
she was a Satanist.
Yeah, it was a Satanist and won.
She won the Republican primary, I think, but I
Then
don't
she
think
dropped
she
out.
won.
Yeah, then she dropped out because she didn't actually want the job. She just wanted to prove a point, which worked great, you know. But to you know, more of the subject of like, it's that easy to win elections, guys. Like it can really be that simple, that dumb. I think I was on with Spike Cohen 2 nights ago, and they're talking about how a guy had the same name as the guy who like ran last time for like I think it was the Democratic Party or something like that. So he just ran under, I think it was like Matt James, the name you know, and then he got elected because they thought they were voting for the same dude. But if stupid like tricks like that can get people elected, then like a little bit of hard work might even work. And this is coming from me, like the anarchist that like doesn't believe that we can solve the problems with electoralism or anything. Like it doesn't mean that you still shouldn't use these systems. There's all this money and everything, and like these electoral systems to run to get your ideas on. To where even if you don't win, like you're going to be on a debate stage, and that debate stage is going to be like paid for, and you can talk about ideas and stuff like that, and maybe somebody will win next time. You know, it's not just about getting elected; it's platforming your ideas.
Yeah, exactly. And in New Hampshire, we actually have candidates that are full-on anarchists that are elected to the House of Representatives there. So even if you don't believe in government at all, you can still run, have a platform for your ideas, even if it's not fighting to, completely abolish the government. You can still participate in a lot of victories, like, ending permits for carrying a gun, legalizing marijuana, a lot of things that will do, good in real life to tangibly make people freer and, less controlled by the government.
See, it looks like we have a Yal convert in the chat right now. So you have to get, I'm going to put Naomi's Twitter handle. It should be in the description. So just harass her on Twitter and she'll get you involved with Yal. Make her job even more busy somehow. Didn't you just get promoted or something? Like just.
Yeah. So in December, I joined the team as a grassroots associate, which basically meant I did everything on the grassroots, like election legislative side. But what I really specialize in is graphic design and copywriting. So right now I'm the grassroots creative director. So my job is to do things like make mailers that will send out against bad Republicans that we need to vote for our bill. I like to Photoshop them with people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris saying, tell Representative Bob Jones to vote for this bill, and he's stalling the bill. Like, tell him to bring it to a vote.
So you're a paid shit poster.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. So I make mailers. I make the literature that we use while we're door knocking to hand to voters, digital ads, and then also do my fair share of training candidates at Liberty Candidate Academies and things like that. So anything that involves like graphic design or messaging, that's my job on the elections and legislative side.
Yeah, because it was fun. Like I think the first time I ever talked to you, you were just like barely gotten started in everything, so you're kind of just shooting up through it.
Yeah, less than a year ago, I hadn't even applied to be an intern at Yale. I was the state chair, but I had applied to be an intern last May. And I didn't even get the internship that I applied for. Like, I got rejected. Apparently they just didn't have space. And so then I went to work on Matt Gertler's campaign in Georgia. We won the first primary election. He lost the runoff later, but I worked on his campaign. And then while I was on the campaign, the VP of grassroots called me and offered me like a grassroots internship position. And then like last June, I moved to Austin and started interning.
Yeah, it seems like everybody lives in Austin. It's like all like half of my Twitter friends are either in California or Texas, and I'm like, God damn it, we need some
California is like fleeing to Texas.
We need Michigan people. We're so desperately in need of liberty up here. It's so bad. We have nothing but rhinos, neocons, and like the most establishment Democrats ever. Not even the fun, kooky ones. Like, I'll take an AOC. I don't even care around here. That's how bad it is. So it's like, it's pretty awful. So it's like, please help. I keep bringing it up to it, but Gretchen Whitmer like covered up a man who died in Lansing jail in the same exact way George Floyd did, and then was running all over the news being like, justice for George Floyd, and we need to answer for this, and blah, blah, while she was actively covering up like a police murder in the exact same way. It's like, you scumbags.
Yeah, these people do not care. Like, these Democrats, they'll talk a lot about, oh, you know, justice for George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, but then they'll keep, you know, pushing the same police policies that kill people. They'll still push for gun control, which is enforced primarily against minorities and result in more people's deaths. To them, it's all just political talking points. It's not actually that they care about people. They just want, you know, to push their agenda and control people even more.
Yep. That's why we need help. So I don't know. Maybe I need to be one of those anarchists that are running, and then I'll call you guys and be like, help me out. Take over something. But yeah, so I guess before I kick us out of here, and you want to tell people, I guess, just where they can find you next, what they can find you on, and I guess anything like if they want to get involved with YAL, where would they go to jump on?
Yeah, so probably the easiest place to find me is on Twitter at Naomi Math. I waste way too much time on there. And if you're looking to get involved with YAL or Fighting for Liberty, you can go to yaliberty.org. That's just the general website. But if you're looking to get involved on the grassroots side, which is the side that I'm in and the side that I'm most passionate about, you know, whether you're thinking about becoming a candidate and running yourself, whether you want a job in politics and to actually work for liberty candidates and for liberty legislation, whether you are even just thinking about running in the future and want to get put on our radar, you can go to yaliberty.org/door, and that will take you to all the resources you need in order to get involved. And definitely, if you are just sitting on the sidelines right now, you know, don't just be that person in your room doing nothing like I used to be. Get involved for the fight for liberty, because losers and people who sit on the sidelines, they don't legislate, they don't make liberty win. And right now, with all of the craziness that is happening in the world, now more than ever, we need people to be out there in real life, in person, getting involved.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're not doomsday prepping and or rioting and or doing stuff with organizations like YAL now of all times, then what are you doing? You know, like that's kind of like your three options. You're living under a rock if you don't understand that, like, this is the final countdown kind of feels right now. Like shit's going crazy. So I definitely hope, like I said, we have one recruit in the chat already, so the stream was worth it, like you said. Hopefully get somebody on there. And he's in San Antonio, so there you go, another Texas one. So yeah, thanks for coming on. Thank you everybody for tuning in for my first scuffed show. I'm definitely going to improve it as I go, but I actually have never done video editing, never used Photoshop, and this is like the fourth podcast I've ever run, so yay. But yeah, thanks everybody, and I'll be back next week Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Stay safe, stay free.